Hi guys, so today I'm going to be talking about something new which is very interesting that as I have learned last week. It's called OIDC, or how GitHub calls it. The full form is Open Identification Connect, Open ID Connect, something like that. So the main goal of this feature is for you to allow to run your GitHub actions and do anything with your cloud providers without providing secrets, or as you do, like with AWS you provide AWS access keys and secret keys. So you wouldn't have to do that if you are using GitHub OIDC. So let's see how you can do that. So as far as the initial setup goes, you can see that I have a bucket setup here which is called complex static app. If I refresh it, you can see that it's like a basic website content. Here is an index.html icon and some assets. Okay, and this is deployed here. You can see that I refresh it and this is it. Apart from that, my repository looks something like this. So I have a workflow in which I provide access key IDs, secret keys, a role name. You don't have to worry about that right now. A region name and the bucket name, which is exactly like as I told you guys. Okay, so in the first, you can see that it installs all the packages. It does a yarn install. It builds a distribution. You can do that using yarn build, and it configures GitHub Actions using the access key secret key, like everyone usually does in their actions. And I provide access key ID as well as secrets from GitHub Actions secrets. Here you can see that. Here I have an example, like you can create it like this. So create a new repository secret, enter access key ID over here, and whatever your ID is inside this, and it will be created. So I have it created here, SSD ID as well as secret key, and it initializes a user using these things, and then AWS region is also provided in a similar way using GitHub secrets. So yeah, currently it is using the old way so that I show you what it does basically, and then it basically syncs the build distribution to the bucket, which is complex static website. So if I go to actions right now, I just ran it like a few minutes ago. I will run it again so that you can see, that it is working correctly. So yes, apart from that, while this runs, I can show you how this whole permission thing is set up. So yeah, while it is running, I will let it run. I'll explain it to you how the permissions are set up. So there is a user called GitHub Actions user, which has a permission attached to it, which is like a permission managed by me, which gives it access to, you know, only this uh, complex static website app uh, bucket. Yes, so let's see it. Yeah, this one. I don't know why it has this as attached. I think maybe it gives right access to all the repositories, but I didn't set it to be like that. But still, it makes sense, right? That it has access to all of these permissions for this particular S3 bucket. That is how the permission is set up. And yeah, I think till now the bucket action would have run. Yeah, so you can see that the build was in package building was successful, installation was successful, build was successful, and authentication went well, and the sync was also successful. So if you see here, yes, everything is working just fine. Now let's see if we, edit something and do some change over here. So if you will see this action on, okay, so the code would be inside app.tsx, and yeah, let's not worry about all the errors here. I will just paste it here. Run this after initial run just to check whether the action is working fine. So I save this file and I added change. I commit this and I push this change. So as soon as I push this change, it is going to trigger that action and it will try to build again. Okay. So yeah, you can see that it has been triggered. Make it look good. Okay, so now the action has completed, and if I reload this page, yeah, you can see that my changes are here. So yeah, this is it. Now, how GitHub OIDC would work is that first you would need to create an identity provider. So yeah, you can see the problem in this case is, right? Yeah, let's just go over what the problem is currently and then let's see how to set up. So the problem in this case is you have to provide access key ID as well as secret key to GitHub Actions. In a sense, if you are not careful with the permissions that you give to that user, GitHub has, your keys now. And if for some sense they, try to do something with these keys, they can. Or not GitHub, if someone else gets access to these keys, like after a hack or something, they can do something, right? So that is the problem which GitHub OIDC tries to solve. So in that, what happens is you actually don't provide these credentials in the actions. You just provide a role name. So you create a role which has, all the permissions that you would need that action to have. And in your actions, you just assume that role. So whenever you assume that role, your GitHub Actions actually requests for tokens from AWS. And since you have already created like an identity provider in AWS, AWS knows that yes, this is a registered person. This is from, we know this repository. We can give the credentials. So it gives the roles credentials to GitHub Actions, and now the GitHub Action has very temporary access. So I guess the secret key and access key which AWS provides is default to be available for only 15 minutes. So this key can be only used during the runtime of action, and as soon as 15 minutes are elapsed, those secret key and ID are disabled. So you don't have long running secret key and ID with GitHub Actions or anyone else. So yeah, so for that, as I told you, you would need to have like a role setup. So here you can see that I have this policy already set up, which is like full access to my complex website bucket. Now what I need to just do is create a role which has the same role. But before that, what I need to do is create like an identity provider. So for that, you can see that I have already created one, but you can create one using the add provider button over here, and you will have to choose the OpenID connect option over here. And apart from that, you will have to set these two options which are present here. So the first would be the provider URL. You would set it to be https://tokens.actions.githubusercontent.com. So you can just paste it here, and in the audience you would type nothing other than, I have my Notion token somewhere. Yes, sts.amazonews.com. So you would provide it here, and once you are done with this, what you would do is click on get thumbprint button, and as soon as you do get the get thumbprint button, it will get the thumbprint for the GitHub Actions, the authentication mechanism. And that is how AWS knows that, this is the provider. And whenever a role is, sorry, a GitHub action runs, it actually asks for this, provider to get the permissions. Sorry, this provider asks the permissions from AWS, and using this thumbprint, AWS actually knows that this is the correct provider. So, and you just click on add provider. So that is how I created this. Now you would have to create a role using going in the, IAM and roles button over here. And once you are in, you will create role and click on web identity and select the GitHub user action thing that we just created, and select Amazon STS. STS is, if you don't know, secret token service, or Amazon secret token service. And now you just attach policies to it. So as I earlier told, we have already a policy set up, so I can attach that. And yes, apart from that, you also need to set up a role name for this. So what I would set up this name is GitHub Actions user, sorry, complex project deployer. And what I would do is add a description like this role is for setting up GitHub Actions to deploy complex static web. And here another thing that you would need to add is a very small thing which I had written over here, is this field, the subscriber field. So here you can see that the trusted entity already is similar to what it should be. It's just missing one small thing, that is this, this final thing that we have to add in here. This is nothing but, like an extra layer of security that you give to this policy. So you can click over here. Okay, I don't think so I can edit over here. What I would do is just create this role right now, and after creating this role, I will edit the policy by going into trust relationships, edit trust policy, and make it completed over here, and do a comma over here and add this. So you can see that here you have to type the organization name. So in my project's case, it would be my username, that is GT786. So I would put GT786. The second part is the project name, which is here complex project. So I would type that in here, and here at the very end you have to type in the branch name. So here in my case it is main branch. So make sure that you fill this in. If you want this actually to allow any branch, you can just do a star over here and it would allow any branch, but it is not recommended. You should always choose the correct branch that you want this action to have permission to, and just click on update policy and just check whether the permissions are correct or not, and that should be it on IAM side. Now what I would do is update this action to actually not use access key ID and secret key. So I will comment it out. So comment this and uncomment these two. So, and you can see that I have this role name set up as an environment variable. I will remove this and set up the role name to be, yeah, this one. Now once I apply this and run this, you can see that I can remove also these two. I can remove these two, but right now just let it be commented, and we can start commit. And now you can see the action would be running over here. Oh, one thing that I forgot or I did wrong was, I provided this role name over here, but what I actually had to provide was ARN, and which is a wrong on my part. So this action will fail eventually. I know that because of my previous experience, but let's try to fix this by going into Github workflow, and instead of uh, you know using role to assume and just provide name, what I would do is provide an ARN and start the commit. Now once I do this, it should create an action and do everything correctly. Let's see if it actually does that. You can see that this action actually was able to authenticate and create the newer version for it. Now I can give you an example, sorry, live example, by just syncing the latest thing and updating something else. So this is an update after using OIDC to show case that it is deploying correctly. And I commit this again, and yeah, showing OIDC example, and close this and sync this change. And once I do that, it will kick another action that most probably will work. Yeah, yeah, you can see that it's done. And if I just refresh this page, this is actually working. And this is how you can use GitHub OIDC to actually authenticate your actions without actually providing any credentials. I hope you found this video informational, and yeah, see you next time.